I don't know. We figured that out at one point, but I don't remember. Not a whole lot.
We'll go ahead and call the Tuesday, July 6th board meeting to order. Let the minutes reflect that all the aldermen are present. At this time, we'd like to ask Dr. Barnett to lead us in the prayer, and Ms. Burgess is going to lead us in the pledge.
Let's pray. Our Father, we thank you for this meeting tonight, that we can have a government where we can come and be open and hear people's opinions and discuss things. We're just very grateful for our country and the freedoms we enjoy, even down to the city level. We pray for our mayor and board of aldermen tonight as they make decisions that will affect people's lives, people's homes and properties. Give them wisdom, Lord, and give us ears to hear and minds to understand, as well as our mayor and aldermen. And we trust you with the care of our city. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Technology is ready. We see the left our flags at the Civic Center last week.
Make a motion to accept the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries. There's some public hearings. First item is 505 Washington Avenue, PID 601-3723-0.000.
Wait a minute.
Make a motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll go to item 3A.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for inviting us here tonight for the public hearing. My name is Rich Westfall, and I live at 6305 Prado Road in Ocean Springs. I'm here to speak on behalf of the project as submitted to you through the for a conditional what's the word I'm looking for? Conditional use permit. Thank you. And we have presented this to the Planning Commission, as I saw in the minutes. Planning Commission has recommended it to the Board of Aldermen. Tonight we have here to support us one of my fellow Board of Trustees, Mike Davis, and also our architect from Tall Architecture, which I could never work there, I don't think, but Tall Architecture, Mark Talley from Tall Architecture. And as it has been presented in the conditional use permit, the property that we're talking about at 505 Washington Avenue has been part of the Walter Anderson campus since 1991, having been used for education, office space, and lodging. The existing structure is a historic 1890s building renovated to, in keeping with the HPC recommendations. Again, as stated in the application, the museum intends to continue the educational legacy of the property by developing a publicly accessible green space and accessory educational buildings to further deliver the museum educational outreach and engagement to the community. The site will continue to include lodging for visiting artists, studio spaces for art, special art workshops, and areas for adding programming. We are seeking to continue the decades-long legacy of education in Ocean Springs in service to our community at large through the new development. As you all know, we've been conducting educational work on that property for 30 years, and this is a natural evolution to expand our services. Part of the project, as has been mentioned, is to create a public green space that adds another asset to downtown as shown in the Planning Commission report. This project is directly supported financially by the private sector as well as government dollars, with contributions coming from Ocean Springs, Jackson County, the state of Mississippi through the Mississippi Arts Commission and Mississippi Development Authority as appropriated by the Mississippi Legislature. This public-private component is very important as our museum is a long-term partnership with the city, physically through the community center and symbolically, as we are excited to be working with our elected officials at every level to bring this about. And this is part of our commitment to downtown Ocean Springs. So please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on behalf of this public hearing?
Not, Mayor, I'll make a motion to come out of public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve conditional use permit for the museum-related buildings at 505 Washington Avenue.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Black, and second by Mr. Aldermen. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Second public hearing on Madison Place subdivision, phase 2. Anyone want to comment on it?
Make a motion to go to public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Black. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion?
Okay. This is a sketch plat for, before you take public comment, we'd just like to, especially with one that's this complex, kind of give you some background in addition to the memo that you have, and we do have the developer here as well. But just a couple of things, and then Mr. Morgan has some information he just wanted to share with you. This one was on a previous agenda, and it was pulled by request of the applicant so that they could make changes based on input received during Planning Commission public hearing. So, because generally the process is we have the public hearing there, it gets recommended one way or the other, you have the public hearing here. So in this case, it was advertised for public hearing the previous time. They pulled it, deferred it to this time, and it went back to Planning Commission. So this is the second time it's been on your agenda, but the first time you've heard it. This is Madison Place Phase 2. And it is sketch plat, which is a conceptual phase of the development. And it is a conservation subdivision, which is a new component of our UDC this is the first project in that regard. So Wade, if you want to go ahead and just point out a few things, and then we have the developer if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you. As Carolyn said, this is a conservation subdivision. This is the first one that has come through the process, which was a new part of the Unified Development Code when it was adopted a few years ago. As Carolyn said, the conservation subdivision is intended really for a area and situation like this where there's a lot of wetlands in the area that needs to be preserved. And what the conservation subdivision provisions do is allow a slight increase in the overall density, smaller lots, in return for designating a larger area of the subdivision into common open space, in this case wetlands. Now, in the specific case of Madison Place, the requirement is that at least 30% of the lots actually abut the conservation area. In this case, it's over twice that, 67% of them. And also, there's a minimum of at least 40% of the total area has to be designated as a conservation area. In this case, in the case of Madison Place Phase 2, It's over 46% of the total area. So it does meet those, exceeds those minimum requirements as a conservation subdivision in return for a slight, in this case, 11% reduction in the overall lot width. All the lot areas are the same. So that is why the Planning Commission is recommending its approval to you. They're not asking at this point for any waivers, any kind of exceptions from the development regulations. And as Carolyn said, this is sketch plat approval, so that before any kind of development, any kind of infrastructure or home construction takes place, it will have to be back before the Planning Commission and you for preliminary plat approval. So there's still a ways to go. I know we were given some letters from the area residents with some concerns about it, and most of his concerns are relate to the preliminary plat. So those will be addressed at that time when they do file for preliminary plat approval, and that's reviewed by staff and the Planning Commission before it comes to y'all. So.
And these two letters were received after that memo was prepared, so if you could just take one and pass it down, these will also need to be read into the minutes they were received.
So wait,
Yes.
it's just the lot sizes, right? There's no concession for streets or turnarounds and nothing like that?
No.
They still have to have all the...
At this time, as part of sketch plat, the streets are standard width, the cul-de-sacs, turnaround areas meet the minimum requirements. Sidewalks are proposed on both sides of all the streets that are part of this subdivision. And then also there will be, again with preliminary plat, will be connections into the wetland conservation areas to make them more usable. And also would point out that they are also dedicating 2 of the lots to the city for use of the pocket park. They're on the southeastern part of the subdivision, and they've been reviewed by Parks and Rec, who find that they could be put to use for a pocket park.
So that's
beneficial to
something
the
that we're
neighborhood.
going to maintain and not a HOA?
That would be, I believe, well, that hasn't been worked out yet, but since it would be given to the city, the plan would be, yes, it is maintained by the city.
The city would actually own those parcels.
Us to maintain it. As far as how the equipment that's put in the park, that's something that can be discussed later on with preliminary plat.
Wait, I noticed, and maybe it's because this is a conservation subdivision, the back lot distance and the side lots are 10 feet. I can find it, I can't find it. Do they allow, I think that's, on R1 is 25 feet, correct me?
That's,
But this one has 20.
this actually is zoned RD in this case of this subdivision. It's not zoned R1, it's not single family.
Okay,
So yeah, that may be the case, but
that
it
clarifies
is a,
that there is an R1 stuff above.
I think the area to the north of that is yeah, that's
Gotcha. Okay.
perfect.
I have a question for Public Works for Alan. In the notes you guys made, water and sewer departments, water department stated that hydrant blow-offs were needed at all dead-end lines. Are they going to not be required to put in a loop, or is the infrastructure already in place?
I think it's already in place.
Okay, is it already dead-end lines in that area?
Some of it is.
Can we, rather than have the blow-offs, could we tie that back into a loop somewhere?
If we, if this is this the part that's gonna cross over and go all the way to Lakeview?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we could.
Then that needs to be the better option. You got some sewer concerns on shallow lines.
Yeah.
Those need to be things that need to be addressed on the front end with engineering, and make sure that we don't have the problems that you guys had in phase 1
Yeah.
reoccur here. So that would be my biggest concern.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
And we do also have the applicant and their engineers here if you, there was anything else that y'all wanted to add.
Anyone here to speak in favor of the master place subdivision? Anyone here to speak against the master place subdivision? Please
state your name and address.
My name is Laura Parker. I live at 106 West Wind Court in the subdivision. There's two issues that I have. One is, the main one is that when we purchased our home, we were told that that area would never be developed, the conservation area. As it is, our house backs up to that area, and that's why we purchased our home. In the new development, the backyards will extend to behind our home. The home next to us will start having the same trees. They're beautiful trees behind us. Also, all the people along Madison Place across from that conservation area, I'm sure you have some of their letters there. They also purchased their home with the promise that that would never be developed. So there is the feeling among the residents that a promise was made and was broken. In our case, it was from the original developer. We actually lived in the first home. That was the first two homes that were ever built from the previous developer. And then Elliott came in and finished the subdivision. But the promise was made in both cases. The second concern is the fire hazard of the conservation area. There was a fire on May 12th, 2020, that was started by kids that burned behind the entire subdivision. What's up right now is actually a video of the fire. You can't see it because it's just a picture, but the flames are actually that close to the fences. With another subdivision, another row of houses on the other side of the street, that creates further risk with more grills, more fire pits, the kinds of things that residents bring. The conservation area is very dense on the understory. It's never been managed in any way, and it is a fire hazard, and would be a fire hazard to all the homes. We understand that that's the most economical way for the developers to do a phase two. The utilities and roads are already there, so it makes sense. It just is very disappointing to the residents, since that's what we were told initially, that it would not be developed. So I guess that's all.
Anyone else? State your name and address.
Yeah, Steve Parker, 106 West Wind Court, and I'm in the Madison Place 1, married to Laura, adjacent to that. No opposing comments to the development. Understand what they're trying to do, utilize an existing road. The one thing, and I think it would be the next slide, if you could scroll down. Actually, the next one after that, one more. Yeah, just a request. I just added a comment to recommendation number 4 from the city engineer, that the common space, open space, must be protected by a conservation easement held by the city or a land trust conservancy. I think that's a great recommendation. And, you know, just a couple of bullets. Developer, and this is the request, would the developer fund the conservancy to implement nuisance species control in the common open spaces to reduce an environmental hazard of fire? And if you scroll back up, I think maybe 1, maybe 2 slides. What I'm talking about there is where you see lots and then a conservation easement behind it, those homes no longer have a buffer between them and kind of that heavily invaded, you know, pine flatwoods. So in the event we had another fire, that fire now would be abutting their homes. It would at least have to jump a conservation easement to hit my house. The fire before went entirely across Riley Road and caught the other field on fire. So it's just a request that, you know, put the money up to do nuisance species control and fund the conservancy. And then the question is, I think that gets decided during the planning. That's not decided today, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So, okay. We'll try and put our comments in and keep before. And thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Make a motion to come out of public hearing, Mayor.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Ricky, just to answer your question earlier, the lots dedicated would be maintained by the city. I've talked to our Parks and Rec Director. It's a perfect spot for one. Been looking for an area out there. Pine Gaming goes right into the rear of Lakeview, so it would not only be able to be utilized by the children of Madison Place, but any of the kids in Lakeview could ride their bikes to this, because that connector road will connect into the back of Lakeview, give them a secondary exit out of that subdivision. But it's a perfect spot for it because it's central to both subdivisions. But yeah, it would be a city park, and Carolyn's already been looking at some funding sources and stuff for me. So yeah, it would be an actual city park. Yeah, Carolyn didn't have enough to do.
Yeah, it's on my list.
I'll make a motion to approve the sketch plat.
Second. Motion by Mr. Empey, second by Mr. Cox. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is agenda public comment. This is a section where you can comment on an agenda item. We will hear from each person for 3 minutes, a total of 30 minutes. We'll only allow 2 people to speak on each side of this public comment. And this will be the only time you'll get an opportunity to speak regarding agenda items. So is there anyone here that would like to make a public comment on an agenda item? Okay. Next item on the agenda is old business, engineering contracts.
I didn't put it on there, but I'll give you my thoughts on it. Since our contracts are expiring, I feel like we ought to, like everything else, go out for RFQs for engineering services. I'll make that a motion. I'll say we make a motion to go out for RFQs to discuss engineering services.
Mr. Blackman's made a motion.
Second.
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 Mr. Empey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? We have 6 ayes, 1 nay by Ms. Burgess. Motion carries. Appointment of boards and commissions. We have several appointments on different commissions here and boards. First one we'll entertain is the Zoning and Adjustment Board. Terms expiring July 31st, 2024.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Don Atwell, Nick Gant, and Michael Smith to the Zoning and Adjustments Board.
Second that motion. A motion by Mr. Empey, a second by Mr. Cox. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next appointment is the Historic Preservation Commission. Terms expire July 31st, 2025.
Make a motion to appoint Michael Burns, Matthew Pablo, and Carlos Barbosa to the Historic Preservation Commission. Second.
Motion by Mr. Empey, a second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next appointment is Coast Transit Authority Representative. Term expiring July 31st, 2026.
Make a motion to appoint Jason Payne to as our CTA representative.
Second. Motion by Mr. Empey, second by Mr. Cox. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Parks Advisory Board, term expiring July 31st, 2026.
Make a motion to appoint Benjamin Elmore to the Parks Advisory Board. Second.
Motion by Mr. Empey, second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Appointment to the Planning Commission. Terms expiring July 31st, 2024.
Make a motion to appoint Marshall Johnson for Ward 1, Andy Phelan for Ward 4, and Michael Davis for Ward 5 to the Planning Commission. Second.
Motion by Mr. Empey, second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, Finance Committee. Board of Aldermen.
a motion to appoint Ricky Hoffman, Rob Blackman, and Bobby Cox to the Finance Committee.
Motion by Mr. Henry. Second by Mr. Alderman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Human Resource Committee.
Make a motion to appoint Jennifer Burgess, Kevin Wade, and Ken Papania to the HR Committee.
Second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Henry, second by Mr. Cox. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a motion to step down from Mayor Pro Tem and appoint Mike Empey.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Alderman, second by Mr. Cox. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. New business. Adopt a resolution naming voting delegate and alternate delegate to the MML 2021 elections.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, we appoint you as our new mayor and the voting delegate, and Alderman Rob Blackman as the alternate delegate.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cox and second by Mr. Blunt. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Discussion to request city attorney to draft ordinance amending ordinance 2011-07 regarding vicious dogs. Ms. Burgess.
So this was just a discussion, in regards to an issue that was occurred in Area 1. I had spoken with Nicole, and we're going to try to, see if we can elaborate and kind of clarify the wording as it stands. Now, when a vicious dog is identified per our ordinance, there's no, action taken at that point. There's nothing to guarantee the security of the dog, so to speak, that the dog is secure during the time frame in which the owner of the said vicious animal becomes compliant. So we wanted to discuss the possibility of changing the language to allow for animal control and/or a designee to seize the animal and allow the owner to have a choice between either the shelter or a boarding or kennel facility of their choice.
Jennifer, can you turn on your microphone, please?
Sorry, I'm not loud enough. Technically,
Well, we can't hear anybody.
so should I start completely over now?
Everybody needs to speak. Everybody does need to speak up because I'm getting texts that they cannot hear you all tonight.
Okay, so really quickly, revamp.
Thank you.
So the ordinance that's in place regarding vicious animals does not really have clarifying language in it to determine what can be done with said vicious animal once it's determined it's vicious. It really doesn't clarify either that the animal control director or person or designee can determine that on site. Once the dog, now there is a clear definition of what constitutes a vicious animal. Once that's determined, then what I'm hoping to do is be able to change the language to allow that animal, under certain circumstances, not every one, it'll be at the discretion of animal control, can seize the animal at that point to either put in the shelter or at a kennel or boarding facility of the owner's choice. During which time, then the owner will become compliant. The concern that has been expressed by residents in my ward is that the dog has been identified as vicious by definition. And in this particular case, I really don't want to reference this one. I'm referencing future cases. In the event that the owner is not serious, does not want to get compliant, does not want to take steps, the residents have to be, to trust that the dog is secure. And if the owner's not becoming compliant, the dog can get out again, and we could have a worse situation. So at least at that point, we have the discretion. The argument has been that that's private property, and that is somewhat, but Nicole said she would look at it
Yeah, Jennifer, I read the statute this afternoon and looked at it, and I'll get with you and the parts that you're specifically talking about, and we will draft something that will, for you and the council, for the board to review, and it will also be worded in a way that will not be violate anybody's rights.
Right, so I just want to make a motion to have that process allowed to be started.
I'll second that, Jim. We have a motion by Ms. Burgess, a second by Ms. Papania. Discussion, please.
So, Robert, I was talking to some other animal control from other municipalities, and the concern, I recognize concern, it was told to me that if an animal is considered vicious by either hurting a human or another animal, then the animal shelter or boarding facility is not gonna take those animals, like to let them live. So I don't know what they're doing in the other municipalities, but I know that that's something that's looked at.
Yeah, we will certainly look at what everyone of our adjoining cities and everyone on the coast has and get some background on that and come up with something that we think will be an improvement over what we have to address specific concerns.
Right.
But yeah, I understand that is a problem, that a shelter is not going to take a dog that has been determined or any animal to be vicious.
Right, they usually hold it until, if a human gets bit, they hold it to make sure that rabies and all that stuff is cleared, but then after that, then, I hate to say it, but the dog is put to sleep, I mean, you know.
We'll put together, the current ordinance, in some places is a little wordy, I think, and we will try to bring it down, and we'll consult with other cities and come up with something.
Anything else? Thank you.
Just a vote?
So, all in favor?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, consent agenda. Motion to entertain.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Motion by Mr. Cox.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blackman, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we move on to department reports, city clerk.
I'll make a motion to accept the docket of claims, all expenditures are appropriate and authorized by law, and spread summary upon the minutes. Second.
Motion, second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to accept the monthly budget report.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Impey, second by Mr. Aldermen. All in favor?
Aye.
Authorize adjustments for water and sewer debt accounts due to finding that customers did not receive the benefit of the utility and the excess usage where due to unseen circumstances.
I did call on one of those before we came in here tonight. Vicki had sent those out, and there was some questions about one, about it being upstairs, and it was quite a bit of usage. And I spoke to the gentleman and told him, I said, it looks kind of funny. He said he could come to the next board meeting and discuss it. It's the 420 Martin, thanks the address. He said that he thinks it started in the attic. It looks like it ran for 5 weeks, but they did not see it until it came through the walls and got in the carpet.
How many gallons was that?
160,
141,000.
So, I told him, you know, if y'all wanna pull that one, we could put it back on for old business next time, and he can come and y'all can question him. It was almost 5 weeks. Just so you know, we looked it up, and 4,000 gallons a day.
Second story, in the second story of the house.
Yeah, he said actually it started in the attic and then came down the walls. And, so I told him that y'all would like to speak to him, so he said he would be happy to come next time. So that's up to you guys.
I'd like to make a motion, we authorize adjustments of all except for 420 Martin Avenue, and I'd like to ask him to come to the next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Discussion of FY 2022 budget calendar.
Yeah, so that's just for you guys to kind of, the first page mainly just kind of explains why we do it, what we do as we're getting ready. The second page is for your refrigerator. Just kind of some dates that I think will work. It doesn't mean they won't change. We go all the way from the 19th for me, trying to go through with everybody. Then we're out for municipal league. And then if we need a workshop, we'll have it the 29th. So it's just normal. It's just something for you guys to have to understand how the process is going to work. You don't need a motion or anything. Yeah, it's just informational. Yeah.
So thank you for putting this together. This clarifies a lot and gives us some dates to have targets.
Right.
Calendar on, so.
Community Development and Planning discuss animal control ordinance as it relates to large animals and livestock.
Yeah, I guess it's the night to discuss the animal control ordinance. This, just to kind of give you background, what we discovered when we had a question asked about larger animals, because what happened is back a few years ago when they revamped the animal control ordinance, it replaced the previous ordinance. However, the new ordinance does not have any language that addresses anything except basically dogs and cats. So the question came up is, can I have a goat on my property? Can I have a horse on my property? Well, the old ordinance had parameters for size of the property, conditions of the property, that yes, you could have these under certain circumstances. However, legally that got rescinded when the animal ordinance was passed. So we don't really have anything that is a governing code right now that governs anything except for dogs and cats. So we needed some direction as far as just finding those portions, and I guess we do it at the same time as we're looking at the rewording the vicious animal, because it used to be all in the same section, to at least provide some guidance for larger animals and livestock, similar to what we had in the past, and we can bring that at the same time, I'm assuming. But right now we don't have any guidance, and I cannot tell people the rules for anything other than cats and dogs. But there does need to be some, it doesn't happen often, but there does need to be some guidelines for something larger than a large dog.
I've had some people that didn't have a problem with chickens in the next door neighbor's yard, but they're putting the hen house right on their property line.
Yeah.
That's
And there used to be a whole section for fowls in there that is no longer in there. So, and we did try to bring something like that back, and there was pushback against it. So, and we can come up with some different options and pitch them to you, but we really do need something for, there is an immediate issue right now that I can't answer regarding a goat. So, just some guidance on that, and if we want to, since they're already going to be addressing it, we can do it at the same time. And I had talked to Nicole, so she's got my background on that and what needs to be included. So that's what that was on.
Anything larger than cats and dogs and chickens, you need to have acreage. So.
Yes, and that's what was in the old one. It had a certain amount of square feet that you had to have, and then even if you met that condition, you had to have proper stable or pens. You had to have a safe environment both for the animal and for the neighbors. All that was laid out, but I don't think it was intentional, but it was rescinded when the ordinance was replaced, when we were dealing with just vicious animals at that time. So that's the thing. We didn't mean to pitch it out with bathwater, but we did. And so if you're okay with that, then I'll work with the attorney to reinstate some of that, basically some of the previous verbiage and put that back in the code.
We'll be glad to do that. We'll call it Farm Bill 2021.
There you go.
I mean, just say you really don't need a motion.
No, it falls under the same thing, but we'll do them both at the same time.
Item 9 on the agenda is general public comment. The public is invited to address the board for up to 3 minutes on each of the maximum of 30 minutes. Only 2 speakers will be allowed per side of each issue. The board will take all comments under advisement. and would take potential action at a later date if warranted. Priority will be given to Ocean Springs residents and business owners. Please identify yourself before speaking. So if anybody would like to make public comment on anything other than the agenda items, you're welcome to do so now. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. First, I'd like to welcome you as our new mayor, Mr. Holloway. Congratulations. I'd like to welcome all the new and recently re-elected aldermen. I'd like to make a public comment on the tree that's in Marl Park. My name is Joe Jewell. I live at 210 Gamble Court. I'm in Ward 3. I'd like to particularly thank congratulate Mr. Wade, who's my new representative in Ward 3. I'd just like to make some brief comments. There's a lot of issues going on in public. There's a lot of public comments going on about that particular tree. There's a lot of groups that are opposed to cutting the tree down. There's a lot of people that would like to see the tree cut down. I want to go on public record and say I'm opposed to cutting that tree down. I've gone down and looked at the trees. The city has it lined off so you can't get real close to it, but I've been close enough to look at the tree to know that it's in reasonably good health. I understand that the city may have some issues with that tree. I think the city needs to take into consideration the precedent that cutting that tree down on that property for that particular reason of that playground will represent all of the trees out in the city of Ocean Springs. Trees are very complex ecosystems. They have an overstory and an understory. They communicate through their root systems. They provide micro habitats for insects that support birds. They have moss and lichens for other different types of microorganisms. The loss of any tree is a tragedy, but the loss of a tree that's potentially liable, the city has to take that into account too. And I understand that. There are some liability issues that have been raised. But I think before the city takes any action or consideration against this particular tree, which is an elderly tree, it has been estimated around 200 years old, that the city at least consider other options in what has been provided to it so far. There's been no boring samples of the tree that I'm aware of. I would suggest that at least 3 borings, which are minimally invasive and very cost effective, be done at 3 different levels in the tree, 3 different locations, so that you can determine if there's any hollow cavity in the tree or any internal damage to the tree that would cause concerns for the city as our elected officials. And I appreciate y'all listening to me, and welcome aboard. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Anyone else want to speak public comment?
Mayor, can I interject one thing to the boring comment? I personally spoke with an arborist today, Mr. Minkler, out of Pasadena. Suggested that idea to him, and he said that he would not recommend as an arborist doing any borings, but would rather see soundings done rather than borings. He says they're much more invasive. There's no damage to the tree done with soundings, and I just want to throw that out there on that.
Okay, so I'm not opposed to that at all. I think that's a good idea. All I'm saying is that I would wish the board of aldermen and the mayor try and get as much information as available to y'all before y'all make any decision. It sounds like a good idea to me.
Greetings, Glenn Miller, 417 Dewey Avenue, 40-year resident there. Last year, my 40th. I've been a tree advocate since I've got here. Came from New Orleans. We fought for trees there when I was younger. Change yourself to trees and save trees. So anyway, I continue with that. And I think my generation, we brought in the tree ordinance in the 80s. And I'm proud of that. But anyway, I've been looking for alternatives. I've been doing my own calling around. I made contact with Ingalls Shipyard and their community services and their public relations through the contacts I had. And I've also contacted a sculptor, Greg Moran, who did the plaques on the bridge, the bronze plaques, which actually have a plaque there. But anyway, I'd like to ask the board to kind of delay any action on the tree, and maybe we'll form a citizen committee to look into possibly doing some supports that are, guided by a civil engineer and then decorated by an artist. So I can pass these around, but here's some ideas that could make it attractive.
We'll
I mean,
see.
these are just big ideas, but it could also be quite something to, put a public sculpture, really. Sheet metal covering up the support posts. And there's Walter Anderson holding up the tree, which if he was here now, he would. So this is my suggestion, and I just humbly ask the board to consider giving a citizen committee a privilege of trying to find this kind of alternative.
And that offer is to cover the harnesses that you're recommending?
Right. It's done quite a bit in Charleston, and you can look it up. And there's tree harnesses. They call them. There's another name for it. I had it, but I can't think of it now because I'm nervous. But anyway, and I would recommend every alderman to go down and look at the tree personally if they haven't yet. It looks pretty healthy to anybody that looks at it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Thanks, Glenn, for that.
And congratulations to the new board members and the mayor.
Anyone else?
So I can't speak because I've already been to.
You speaking for or against?
Against. I'm kind of in a neutral position, but I
If
get.
you're in a neutral position, you got 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell a quick story. Sarah Boget, 1707 Kensington Drive, born and raised here. A little over 300 years ago, King Louis XIV and his advisors made a decision to expand the New World. And he chose Pierre Lemoyne d'Iberville to do that. He actually sent d'Iberville to make a base camp at the foot, at the delta, river delta of the Mississippi River. However, no one knew that there were 5 river deltas, and it took d'Iberville and his crew a while to get on up the river and find a letter from an indigenous tribesman that actually had been written by LaSalle in 1682 saying, yep, this is the river. All that to say, d'Iberville goes, shoot, I can't do any kind of base camp, fort, settlement at the base of the river, so I better go back and figure out another plan. So what does he do? He comes back, there are 2 frigates, the Badine and the Marin are anchored out on Ship Island. They come back, get in bark canoes, and come into Ocean Springs, what is now Ocean Springs in the Bay. Guess what? I'm going to contend that that little oak tree down there was probably there as a wee lad in 1699 when they came into the Bay of Biloxi. That little bay, if we were to pretend that that little tree had a voice, that tree would have been wise enough to know to be quiet and listen to his elders who were overseeing the bay as sentinels. I would compare you to d'Iberville, the board and the mayor, having the ability to make an executive decision as to whether or not the fort couldn't go at the base of the river. So you had to come up with a different plan. Now, how that looks for you guys, I don't know. But we, the people, together should be diligent and vigilant to oversee what our natural resources are. Our live oak trees are one of our greatest natural resources on the coast and kind of bind us together with their root systems. I would like to see the board do just a little bit more, even what Rob has suggested, possibly, you know, what Glenn has suggested and Joe. Let's just see if there's any other possibility of saving the tree. If there's not, then let's go forth with some plan that we won't have to visit and revisit this same situation ever again in a town known for her oak trees. Thanks, guys.
So Greg has something on the flash drive he'd like me to show.
Is this part of the tree?
No.
Is this part of the tree?
No.
All right, my name is Greg Gibson. I reside at 6516 Shoshone Drive, but also own property at 10,000 for Martin Luther King as well, and attend Macedonia Baptist Church. So, Megan, if we go up to slide 1. So, as you know, back in 2019, I was back down here talking about the different parks and the neglect that we had at MLK Park. And so, with that being said, I know that the city had allocated $50,000 for MLK to get some renovation done. But however, those parks, Megan, if you go.
I'm sorry, it's like
okay,
playing on
got
its
you.
own.
So as you can see, Ocean Springs has an award-winning park for all ages and all communities. So you can go to the next slide, please. The city and different organizations have partnered with repairs to clean up, update, and add amenities for all our parks. And we know that. And however, that the city and the residents and the visitors who visit these different parks appreciate that. Next slide, please. But as you know, public parks are built for leisure, activities, fun, community gathering. However, every park should be equipped with repairs and updated fairness in mind and work schedule on an equal time frame, while other parks are receiving new equipment such as splash pads, zip lines, structured physical challenge, youth, ceiling fans for gazebos, benches, repavement parking lots, and regular power washing and other amenities. So at MLK, as we talked about back in 2019, when I brought that here to the city, that we had some dilapidated equipment out there that needed to be repaired. So as you know, that the city elected to go ahead and tear down the pavilion, resurface the basketball court, also updated the bathrooms, and go to the next one, Megan.
Sure.
Please. And as you can see the comparison in contrast at Fort Maurepas, the park at Hanley Road, several parks with ceiling fans. As you can see, the old pavilion at MLK, no ceiling fans, no equipment. And as you can see, that was the old structure that was in dire repair needed. And of course, you can see the barbecue grill. Go to the next one, please. So with that being said, you can see the Little Children's Park, Fort Maurepas Splash Pad, and of course you can see MLK Park. And you can see that the grill that we have is visibly used. That's just not on that MLK day, but every time when that grill was out there, when it was usable, friendly, we used that grill, not just at MLK, but it was other events that we had throughout the community. Next slide, please.
We've got about 15 seconds.
And as you can see that the other parts with the new renovation, however, we appreciate that, but we would like to see our grill back out there at MLK Park, because all parks are unique and different. And we know that at Fort Maurepas, they have a splash pad. MLK had the barbecue grill. We're asking that those amenities be put back out there. And we know you updated the bathrooms out there too as well. Okay. So, I got one more thing before I
They
get.
got the gist of it.
Okay, well, I know that, you know, you guys are going into a budget session in October, but what I'm asking is that you put a line item in there for MRK to get the grill back out there. Thank you.
Greg, just one thing to add to that. Also, we got the basketball goals and posts.
Yes,
To the
absolutely.
Mr. Gibson, come on, see me one day.
Mhm.
We'll be glad to talk to you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Belmore Ward 2. First of all, I want to thank you guys for your public service. You know, it's a lot of work, a lot of time, and pay ain't that great. So thank you for all y'all do. It's exciting to have a woman on the board, a little bit of gender diversity, so that's good. I just wanted to speak, like, kind of broken record. People are tired of it, but COVID infection rates are still, unfortunately, kind of creeping back up. I just wanted to make sure, with a fairly big audience, that y'all are aware. Vaccinations are highly, highly encouraged by pretty much everybody in the medical field. If y'all have any questions, you can certainly approach me. You can call 809-5555, which is Singing River's vaccination hotline. But if we don't get our vaccination rates up, we are going to run into problems with these new strains that are coming from all around the world, because we live in a big global society. And I just really want to encourage people to ask their doctors and ask their nurse practitioners and people who take care of their health what their advice would be, because we're all pretty uniformly in agreement that all 99% of people should get vaccinated. And please ask your healthcare provider instead of looking on Facebook for your medical information. So thanks again, you guys. I hope you have a great year.
Thank you. That's it? That's it? Aldermen's forum?
Still have one.
Oh, you have, okay, I'm sorry.
I didn't see on the agenda, I put in for a demolition permit for the Baby Restaurant.
That's gonna be brought up here in about, so it gets to me.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it on there.
Anybody else? Includes public document. Aldermen's forum.
Yes, so Alan, I had sent you that email, and you and I are gonna meet Thursday morning and ride through the board and identify, let's put eyes on everything that needs to be. The only thing I did have a question on was that 330890, that one's been around for a while. We put that netting down with the seed, and we're gonna stop it now. The
We'll look at
weather,
it Thursday
I know,
morning.
right, is.
We'll go there and look at it, see what we
Okay,
do.
all right, yeah, and so you got that, and that's all I have, so we'll go over that list Thursday. Thank you.
All right, I think everybody has a tennis proposal in front of them for the Halstead tennis courts. And hopefully we read through it. I think it's a good proposal. And I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the proposal you have in hand from Doug Hay.
I'll second that motion. Motion by Mr. Alderman, second by Mr. Cox. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have some. Are y'all going to fund, are you gonna fund something this year, or are you talking about for next year, is this in the budget?
No cost.
I'm sorry?
There's no cost.
Oh, okay, I just looking for the money for it.
They don't have any.
Yeah, all right,
I think this has been good.
you're good.
I knew I was waiting to put this
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Ricky.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I just have one thing for Alan. Alan, there's a lot of places where that we've been backfilling gravel and packing, you know, for asphalt. Any idea what time, or what, I know we have a lot of rain, but as far as timelines,
I'm hoping to run asphalt in the middle of next week if it's still dry.
okay,
Nobody's running this week.
that's all I have.
I don't have anything. Cox.
Well, I was gonna move on to tennis pro, but I'll switch over to Alan. Our median in the highway, is our contractor out of town, or what? You did-
No, he come last week and started cutting, and it started raining, and it got so wet that I told him just to clip the tops last week and make sure that the Civic Center and all was done. So he did all of that.
He just didn't touch the median.
He said he'd be back the first of this week and do it, but it's raining every
What
day.
about the suckers on the bottom of the grape?
He's gonna do all of that when he comes through, he said.
They look like hedges.
I thought
Yeah.
John Gill was back.
They haven't been touched in a while either.
He said he was gonna do everything when he got back, but it's gotta dry some. Is there anybody we can contact to try to get some of those open, the drainage open in the median out there for MDOT? Besides Kelly?
Kelly.
Because a lot of them are holding water, they're still level with the roads.
Contact them, Doc, I'm sorry.
For the drainage in the median,
We may start doing it ourselves, we really get with them, because they're not maintaining that.
They're not maintaining any of the trees.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's really bad out by the gas station past.
Henshaw Road and all that's still in the water.
We're going to go take a scoop out in front of those drains or something. Just
We'll contact Troy tomorrow and tell him about y'all's concerns and see if we can have some kind of resolution on that pretty short. I had a young gentleman here earlier, he just left, but any of the department heads or mayor, aldermen, any of you have any ideas for the Eagle Scout project? I saw he got up about just a second ago, but Dale Knoll was in attendance, and he's looking for an Eagle Scout project. So
We clean the drains in the median?
We talked
We
to-
moved on to the drains in the median, but I just want to.
We talked the other day about getting them to do that exercise area at the Freedom Field, putting sand in there and bringing all that up. I mean, I could have the sand delivered down there for them if that's something they want to do on a Saturday or whatever.
Well, what I'll do is send him down to your office and just let him talk to you.
Send him to me.
Appreciate it. That's all I've got.
Trying to overstep my boundaries.
Hunter Drive, how do we stand there? You know, the county screwed that wreck up.
Jonathan Baum said they were gonna try to be in here this week, but with all this rain, I don't look for them to come.
They are.
Yeah, he said they were almost finished with Pascagoula, and as soon as they finish Pascagoula, they're coming back here.
Have you started, Barber Circle, drainage on Barber Circle?
No, we're waiting on Mississippi Power to get that box moved.
Can we go ahead and, once you do the drainage, have them paved? That's right there.
Yeah.
Talk to Jonathan about doing that.
I will.
When they repave Hunter,
Yeah.
repave Barber.
That box was scheduled to be moved last Thursday, but they said they couldn't move it because it was so wet.
The way it is there.
And then it's underwater today, I know they can't move it now.
Hanley Road needs to be repainted.
Hanley? At the,
At the railroad tracks and, the approach of Hanley and Government.
I know they were painting Martin Luther King, or started it Friday.
Wait till it dries up.
Yeah, the arrow, no, I've already had, it's already,
It's gone away.
I'll look at it.
Whatever the word is.
Robert, let me ask you, please, sir.
Subject, East Beach.
And I saw on our expense tonight, we had two items for Mr. Dillon and Mr. Harris that you attended to. Where do we stand on this? When did we start the sidewalk on East Beach? This is 12 years, sir.
Yes, I was gonna say, it started in 2009 when Gunn and Harris sued us in Hinds County Chancery Court. They won that, it went to Supreme Court, that portion of the case was affirmed. It then came down to Jackson County Chancery Court, to which, over 5 years of litigation, we won that. It was eventually affirmed by the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court's final order was directing us to go back to Hinds County Chancery Court, present the order to the Chancellor. The Chancellor had entered a temporary restraining order. We had that hearing on June 17th of 2019. Presented it to her, and she said a ruling would be forthcoming. In February of this, no ruling at all. In February of this year, we asked her for another conference, reminded her of the fact that she said it's an important public matter. I have written her a letter, copied to other council, telling them this is a public safety issue, it's important. After the February hearing of this year, she did not make any rulings. So as happens today, I sent another letter to the judge, and in this letter, I've set forth, working with the attorneys for the Secretary of State, a very detailed finding of facts and conclusions of law. So in theory, she can sign it, and that's all that's left. So we sent that to her today. The rest of it, I would prefer to talk about, other options to talk about it in executive session.
My major concern is we've got the money now for DMR. We have a 2-year fuse on how long we've been. We've lost money one time before, and we've got some funding now. Carolyn?
Yeah, we've got the STIP funds in
And
since
I
some
don't
time.
know when the deadline is on that, so.
They're getting impatient.
Yeah.
We should receive authorization to advertise any day now for the STIP funds, so.
I'll get with you. I need to know that deadline.
Okay.
I will send her another letter at this point. There's
Okay.
nothing to be lost.
Okay.
Yeah, Robert,
I'll get all that to
My
you.
major concern is we lose the money this time.
We won't get it
We
again.
can't lose them. You're right, we lost it the first time because of
Yes, sir.
that litigation.
We did, and we've got funding now for DMR City. And I don't know the time frame, but Carolyn said 2 years.
Yeah, they can be flexible on that, but that timeline just started last year. But we have a pot for that they'll be questioning why we're not using. Plus, the MDOT funds are the ones that if we don't go forward in this fiscal year, at least advertising this fiscal year, we're gonna have, we start to risk losing it. Yeah.
We've talked offline, but I'd like to punch this thing on.
I think some of the information that Carolyn just said would be helpful for maybe another letter this week.
Okay.
I'll get you some bullets.
That's all I have.
Black.
A couple of things. First off, the gentleman here, demolition of the structure at 1010 Robinson did not make the agenda. I was handed this earlier today. Structure at 1010 Robinson falls under our over 50 years old rule. And did you guys get a copy of it by chance? Just the formality we always go through for structures over 50 years old. I'd make a motion that we approve the demolition of 1010 Robinson.
Motion by Mr. Black, a second by Mr. Cox. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And while we're on that topic, it's been brought up a couple of times that the 50-year rule is kind of, needs to be relooked at. So I wanted to ask Carolyn and Daryl, maybe get with HPC, because a 50-year-old home now would be built in 71, 72. We need to look at a new realistic start date that we go back from. So I would like you guys to come up with a recommendation and say anything built prior to X year, rather than just saying 50 years old.
Yeah, and I was telling them, we'll have to research. I'm not sure exactly the origins of that code, if it's something beyond city, so.
City or state, we'll
I-
figure out where it came from. and
State requires something,
Just come back
but they
and
don't
give
say
us a
what.
recommendation.
Will do.
That's all I would ask.
What started the 50-year deal?
That's what we've got to
I
look
understand
up.
they store it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand they store it.
Right, so we would need to see where that started, where it came from, and what a new realistic timeline would be, rather than just stating 50 years. The other thing, a couple things from Al, everybody's beating you up tonight.
Come on, I'm good with it.
But this one, you know, we've had a lot of trouble with these boring contractors, especially in Ward 5 in the last few weeks. They've hit utility lines, we've marked them, they've hit them, they've torn up sewer, storm drain. They've hit everything out there, power.
They knocked the water icon off,
Cherokee Glen.
We had to have a road closure on Government Street Friday. We had it scheduled today, but the rain stopped that. Yeah. So I want to make sure that you guys are keeping track of all the damage, documenting it, and there's got to be a reimbursement procedure that we can go through.
That's what I need to know. What do I do with everything once I get it documented?
We got Robert here for you.
Send it to me.
Send it to Robert.
Okay.
We need to be reimbursed, because we're spending thousands.
They got a water main on Eagles Nest this morning.
So,
Are you aware of the meeting tomorrow? Yeah, Mr. Black, we're having a meeting at C-Spire tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And we're going to be discussing the damages and repairs and taking care of people's yards
Let's
and
make
stuff
sure
like
we
that.
got some legal representation there.
Rob, we can go back, since the city is not subject to a statute of limitations, we can go back as far as you have information on
Okay.
damage that's been done that we've had to spend money on.
It's been going on for
Yeah.
months.
And it's not just C-Spire too, it's AT&T and then it's their a lot of them are subs.
Yeah, there's subs of AT&T and C-Spire, it's all subbed out work.
We'll deal with AT&T and C-Spire.
Right, right. The other thing, we looked at some sinkholes in the old place a while back. Some rains really exposing them, making them worse. So let's get a plan of action on that, and we're not gonna get to those.
I think we got a meeting on the Benville place Thursday.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
But that's only
Easement.
Yeah. We'll deal with that tomorrow, but we'll rehash that tomorrow as well. Last thing, I just want to thank everybody with the city, Patty, your crew, Megan, everybody that was involved with the swearing-in ceremony. It was first class, top notch, and we really appreciate y'all's hard efforts and making that a great night for everybody. So thank you all, everybody. That's all I have, Mayor. Thanks for stealing my thunder again. Yeah,
I just want to reiterate what Rob said. I've said on numerous occasions, and I'll be happy to repeat it. When it comes to city employees, we have the best around. Alderman Dalgo, I'll never forget the advice he gave me when I first turned in office. He said, the most important thing that an elected official can do is get to know your department heads and your city employees. He said, don't get in their business, don't get in their way, but get to know them. He said, because these folks can make you look like a superstar, or the other end of the spectrum too. But they've always, all of our city employees do a fantastic job, regardless of the department. We appreciate all of you, and the swearing-in ceremony was fantastic. I have one thing here. The Finance Committee met on June 15th, and one of our leases at the county building with the Lighthouse for Dyslexia. Recommendation of the Finance Committee was to void the current lease. We've had an increase. They've added rooms to their operation that have not been included in the lease. A lot of square footage there has been added. Just due to the market, our insurance on the facility has increased this year, so I want to make a motion to void and redo the lease for Lighthouse for Dyslexia in the Tacoma facility.
Motion by Mr. Empey, second by
No.
What? Is there any discussion?
Mike, is there any way that we can amend that contract instead of void it? Because this is the thing, I didn't know about this till tonight, and neither did anybody from Lighthouse, but my fear in this matter is that if we void that and they have applications in for grants and other things with the state, that, it could interfere with that part of it. So can we just make a motion to amend the contract?
I don't know. I was going with what I was told by Nicole. So what would?
Or at least talk to them first to find out, to make sure it's not gonna mess them up, because they're just about at the point where they got all their accreditations, and I'm not sure they have them all, and I don't want to void a contract that's gonna hurt that part of it and start all over.
The new board has the right to void or cancel any contract that exists out there, with the exception of a few things like waste collection and all that. So right now, the board has that option on any contract that was entered into by the previous administration. So right now, you have without any liability whatsoever to the city, you can void any contract. As far as amending a contract, Nicole looked at it, I have not looked at it.
Or at least get with them to find out, to make sure that they have a game plan and all this.
And Ricky, that doesn't have to be, tonight's not your only opportunity to do that, to void a contract. You have time.
Well, if it can be amended, that's totally fine with us.
Well, that was just to bring it up to snuff to match the increase that we've been dealing with.
I would think
So
that
if we can just
it could be
amend it, that would be
Okay.
fine without more.
Well, that's fine. I'll change my motion to, from void to amend on the lease agreement.
We have a motion, then we have an amendment to amend the lease instead of voiding it. Second, Mr. Biden seconds it. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I know I'm not an alderman, but I want to make a few comments here. The staff is going to meet on a weekly basis, and we're going to meet on Wednesdays following the board meeting. And the reason for that is things will be fresh in our minds, and we can act on what was talked about this evening. On the off weeks for board meetings, we're going to meet on Tuesdays. That'll be just a progress report and anything that's happened up to that point. We are creating a plan with the administration in each department, and we're going to work that plan. So what we're going to ask, and the staff was 100% in agreement with this, that if you come across something in your ward, instead of calling the director personally, if you will send an email to my office with to Megan, copy me and the director that you want to get this work order in front of, we will address it in a mannerly fashion, orderly fashion, so as not to disrupt what is going on in their daily lives and pull them off of something, put them onto something else. So we have a plan. We're going to address all your needs in a timely manner, but in order to avoid confusion and keep everybody on a positive track, we'd like to see this take place. Other than that, that's all I have. I appreciate the assistance from the board on this first meeting, covering up some errors. And we'll promise to do a little better job in the future. We have an item for executive session, so I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Motion
to go into closed session.
Second.
All right, and then we'll have a motion to come out of closed session. All in favor? Aye. Motion
You know, he didn't have to work 22 days straight. 22 days straight. And then we went on vacation the next day, and he was like, hey, I need vacation. So they came out. But we had a great time. Where did y'all go? We went to Business which is like Shark Tooth Castle.
Do we need to try to handle the government?
Yeah, we talked about it, we knew that the forward were, I didn't really have an update, you know, and then the holiday or whatnot, because I was getting something.
No, it was going straight.
So we talked about it. Because I was like, I know you told me some things, but 2 seconds before the meeting, I was like, yeah, I've got something, but I'll get it to you
No, but we have to see how they do. And they gave us tickets again. We'll go back. The only my favorite part is the beach my feet
I saw that Garver got.
Yes.
And my question, do you need a formal request from me to have a sign? See you, Chief. One day I'll treat you to lunch.
All right, sounds good.
Your convenience, call me.
All right, you too.
And I can provide, you know, Depends on how you ask for it, but I can give you
I mean, I'm not, I mean, I've got it today, nothing to do. I didn't expect to.
No, it was primarily.
My daughter's
Only having you.
Well, our goal is to get the ranch, it's the chicken and the egg.
Right, had you come slowly, and I know some of you had at least, the project review, close by, that was probably the key factor as far as waiting.
My closest one, Mississippi engineer would be in Mandeville.
Right, which is close, but still, if you had to get here for something, that was, I'd say that was really the
Also kind of expected, most of those people have never heard of it.
Well, right.
I mean,
But actually, some of the committee members had, or like, at least,
But I got a pallet jack
to have, and but I've got several more projects probably coming in the next few years.
I saw there were two things, Washington Avenue, to stop it. Is that just requesting the funds, that's not in any state?
Yeah, that, we're still in the application.
right there.
So we put in an application for that, and the Tidelands application is on the street. And the other one is to build out a pocket park. And there's already sidewalks under the bridge.
I'll get your pallet jack, bring it down.
But to kind of create a little bit more of a, extend a.
You got one for the chip? Well,
What's the easiest way to keep up with?
Pretty much, I wonder if either email or, I think
it's
anything that I have to get authorization for will be from there, and then you have questions. Emails probably. Text me. Tell my parents to email me, I'm not
And I can only work in a little bit anyway, so.
But the essence, but those are the applications, and that's actually the target for 2023. You're like a year and a half out to that. So,
That's a long way.
I won't know about those for a while. But yeah, that's the best way is just to keep an eye on the agenda. Or just,
get on there and they log it into the National Weather Service.
Talk to them about bricks and
What
water.
you got to do is you got to
And we
find
got
out if the
CFO
insurance
and
company will
CFO
buy it.
Yeah, sure.
Down the line, so.
Yeah, just contact the mayor's office.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that one, so. All right, thank you.
Chick, I want a sculpture of you.
Need you to take this number.
No.
I called her.
I agree.
Voicemail says you are. I had to go back and call her.
Well, send it to me.
She's like, where's my pen?
Well, it's because you haven't.
That's the voicemail. I don't know nothing about all that stuff.
All the help we can get.
But he's gonna be in town next week.
I'm good.
And you have to talk to somebody about their companies donating all this money throughout the South.
No, we moved it inside.
We do
Let out. Yeah.
What kind of grant do
I moved it inside. It's too wet outside.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see who he is. You don't know what company he works with?
He did it the first time.
I got an email from Whammo. They would want to put some barcodes on the glass at the community center. Would that cause any problems?
Barcodes on glass?
Yeah.
Like how? Like attached to it?
And beers.
I'll send you the email.
I guess it depends on how.
Phone costs me too much money. Because they set out on the internet too much.
Yesterday, that was yesterday. Here it is. Let me forward it to you. I'll let you.
Yeah, just forward to me. It depends. I mean, it could be absolutely fine or.
I just like to check because I don't know anything about the historical
Yeah.
things. So.
I ain't know the number is wrong.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned with having a QR code as far as
So right now,
but how it's attached.
Right. I think I'm gonna take it.
Right now, I got nothing to tell you no.
Oh, really?
Might as well. Had everything else out there.
You know, my wife wanted we were living in that house outside of town. Don't want it downtown. That's the problem.
Motion made by Ricky Aldermen and seconded by Rob Blackman to stand in executive session to discuss the management of the Mary C., including partnership, MOUs, and other organizations, and East Beach litigation.
I did forget something.
Is it, Patty, do they don't need me to stay, do they?
You don't want to talk about East Beach?
No, I really don't.
Oh, come on.
Did I understand that they're going to ask for RFQs? City
They said
engineer?
they authorized me to send them. That'll be fine.
Yeah.